What's up, everyone? It's Baseball America Hot Sheet. It is JJ Cooper and Peter Flaherty from Baseball America. I'm Scott Braun. Make sure you get yourself a little Baseball America subscription, especially for the holidays. Get after it. If you're looking at some of the content for Baseball America and you want it all, go for it, okay? So JJ and Peter, we have a super busy show. We have a guest coming up in probably about 7-8 minutes, but let's get back to school. Last Wednesday, National Signing Day. Peter, it's a lot more interesting these days, in my mind, as a more casual observer, to talk about National Signing Day with the way college baseball works. So would you like to run through your top 10 recruiting classes and some specifics?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to start at the top, and I think any viewer will get an overall theme of the class by just looking at the graphic. There's a serious SEC flair to it. But at the top, LSU's leading the way. They had the number 2 recruiting class in 24. They have the initial top class for 25. And it's really deep, top to bottom. They've got a dozen recruits who rank inside our high school top 100 rankings. The physical infielder Brady Ebel, who's on the graphic, is the headliner of the class, and so is offensive force Dean Moss. I really liked what I saw from Moss down in Jupiter. He's a really explosive athlete. You're buying the offense with him, but it's an impressive hit power combination. And then looking further into the class, you've got nephew, former big leaguers Delman and Dimitri Young, Quentin Young. He's got plenty of bat speed and raw power. And then on the mound, the ultra physical New York right-hander Miguel Cime. He's got a big time arm, tons of arm strength. He was up to 100 over the summer. And I mean, we could talk through 12, 13, 14 LSU guys and just have the hot sheet show be the LSU recruiting class show, but maybe for another time. But looking further down the board, like everyone in the top 10 and even outside of it has put together solid classes. And I think it's important to keep in mind that it's going to change as we, get further into the cycle. There are a couple of big time uncommitted names still on the board in Cruz Schoolcraft, Jaden Fausk. Those are kind of the two big ones to watch, and they could shuffle the rankings depending on where they commit. And then also the draft, like as we flip the page suddenly from 2025 and looking way ahead to the 2026 season. It's still up in the air as to who's going to end up on campus, who's going to get popped. So it's a good initial look, but stuff will change.
Peter, the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is seeing Vandy up there. Now, if you're just a casual fan watching this, you may go, well, yeah, Vandy being at the top of the recruiting rankings, no big deal. But I kind of would look at that and say that also is a sign of strength here, because Vandy's probably had a little bit more trouble, I would say. Obviously transfer portal is not exactly the same for them, but also NIL. There's been a kind of a number of things that have kind of been headwinds working against them. What's kind of going on with Vandy, and was it, as you did the reporting, were you surprised to see them have as strong a class as they did?
I knew that they would have a solid class, and as we saw the commits continue to roll in, it was becoming increasingly more impressive. To have them net the number 3 class, at least initially, I think is a major win. I think for any high school prospect, a high-end high school prospect, Vanderbilt isn't all too hard of a sell. I mean, you have elite academics, you have an elite baseball program. Nashville's a great location. It's a really appealing package. So I think that they're also the beneficiary of having 2 headliners at the top. Seth Hernandez is the best prep pitcher. Potentially, you could make the argument that he's the best pitcher in the entire draft. I would still take one of the 2 college arms, but Hernandez can go toe-to-toe with either Jamie Arnold or Tyler Bremner. He's been up to 98. He's got a plus changeup and a quality curveball. Sean Gamble has loud now tools with upside to boot. And then I got a really good look down in Jupiter at outfielder Slater DeBron. He's a high-energy, bouncy leadoff player with present physicality, loud tools right now. And I think that a lot of the credit goes to newly minted recruiting coordinator Ty Blankmeyer, who made the jump from Duke to Vanderbilt. And I think that while the class started to take shape while he was still at Duke, we've seen him flex his recruiting chops both at Duke during his time there and putting together great recruiting classes, and then also even in some of the underclass commits that they've netted. And I think with Coach Blankmeyer, he's an outstanding recruiter, as we've mentioned, and I think that it's a matter of when and not if that he's going to be the head coach at a major Power 5 school.
The other thing, keeping it in the state of Tennessee, but the national champs, the defending national champs, kind of expected them to do a lot. but they kind of had a surprise on signing day, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like with Tennessee, all they do is win. Whether it's last year they won their first ever national championship, they won 60 games. They've got a top 5 recruiting class in the class of 2025. They got flips from Billy Carlson and Cameron Appenzeller. But then also, as you said on signing day, they got a nice little extra stocking stuffer, I guess you could call it, with Steele Hall, formerly a 2026 shortstop who announced his intention to reclass to the class of 2025. And that's a really exciting talent to add to the 2025 class, and a high-end one at that. He's got good actions and good body control over at shortstop where he's got a chance to stick. He's got strong hands and bat speed at the plate. He's another one who performed well down in Jupiter. I think he went 3 for 9 with the stacked USA Prime and Tiger Scout team. I got a good look at him. And so, I mean, like I said at the start, the wins just keep coming for the Vols, and it's another standout class.
Okay, so I do want to ask you to kind of shift it from the SEC. What's a non-SEC class that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I think non-SEC it gets a little challenging, but in the Atlantic Coast Conference, Virginia and Wake Forest, they put together, I'd say, really strong classes. With UVA, it's pitching heavy. Aaron Watson is a name to watch. He's been up to 96, and he's got feel for his 4-pitch mix. Aiden Stillman, who's a southpaw, he's got plenty of projection left, but he's already been up to 95 from the left side. So those are 2 standout arms to watch. With Wake Forest, they especially recently have taken that jump from, I'd say, like above average program to teetering on elite and consistently in contention to go to in contention to go to the College World Series. It also starts on the mound with the Deeks, and I think that's an encouraging sign for Wake fans, is just given their aptitude with pitching development. Right-handers Josh Hammond and Marcelo Harsh. Hammond moves really well. He's a dynamic mover on the mound. He's been up to 95 with life at the top of the zone. His slider will flash sharp and tight horizontal break, and it's already a bat misser. It's got plus potential. Harsh, I'd say in the Northeast, he is a high school prospect who has a big fat up arrow next to his name. He's gotten tons of buzz. He's ultra projectable. He's already been up to 93, but it's easy to envision the fastball taking that jump into the mid to upper 90s. But his best pitch right now is a low to mid 80s slider. It'll flash 2-plane tilt and already gets tons of swings and misses. So SEC heavy at the top, Virginia, Wake, and other programs following close behind.
Well, Peter, this was awesome. Thank you for getting us caught up on signing day. Appreciate the time, and we'll get you on again soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, Peter Flaherty from Baseball America. Now let's bring in BA's Geoff Pontes, a regular on Hot Sheet here, and he's going to help us out with our interview coming up right now with Rockies prospect Chase Dollander. It is National League West week, so let's talk to Chase, and Peter's in for it too. Chase, great to see you, and a smile. How's everything going for you this offseason, man?
Everything's going great, man. Can't complain. It's been a good offseason so far.
I don't know if you caught anything in the green room too. Sorry, JJ, and then you follow me, but I mean, obviously we're talking about signing day. Are you still following, Tennessee pretty closely these days?
Not as closely as I would like to. Obviously, I have a lot going on myself, but I hear really good things, and I'm really excited to watch them this year.
I was just going to ask you the same thing. Like, what was it like for you to see some of your old teammates and all get to dogpile in Omaha?
I'm going to be honest, it was a little bittersweet, just because I wish I was out there doing it with them. But, I was really happy for those guys, and it's really happy for the coaching staff too, just because of all the work that they have put in over the years since they got there, and they deserve it as much as anybody else. So, it was really awesome to see.
Chase, before we dive into some of your, season and what you're up to, I got one more teammate-wise. So were you paying attention to the 2024 draft and who a teammate of yours could be, for a long time in the organization?
Yeah. It was a really good draft. I feel like the Rockies had a really, really good draft, in my opinion. I've talked to a few of the guys that have gotten drafted by them, and it seems like we're putting pieces in the right spot. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Hey, Chase, Geoff Pontes here. Wanted to catch back up with you. Saw you a couple times toward down the stretch here in Hartford. Pitched really well once you got up to Double-A. it felt like you took a big step forward in terms of your fastball quality coming into this year. Kind of was, hearkening back to that pitch that we saw your sophomore year at Tennessee. But I thought just from a pitchability standpoint and an efficiency standpoint as a starter, you were getting deeper into starts in Double-A, using less pitches per inning, that sort of thing. So talk to me about the progression that you've really made as a pitcher over the last year.
Yeah, so I mean, going into this past year, my first full season in the minor leagues, my focus was just get in the zone as much as possible. I know if I'm in the zone, it's going to be really hard for people to put bat on ball. So it was just a matter of trusting my stuff and throwing it in the zone as much as possible. See how fast I can get to 2 strikes. See how fast I can get people out. Me and Dan Meyer, the pitching coach in Hartford, talked a lot about getting people out in 4 pitches or less, so I can go into games longer and pitch more and run that inning count up. So I felt like I was able to do that once I kind of shifted the focus between snap, like I don't want these guys to hit me, to what, screw it, like I'm gonna throw my stuff down the middle and you're not gonna be able to hit it. So as soon as I got to Double-A, I think that kind of mindset switched a little bit. And I had a lot of success with it. So I'm looking forward to carrying that out.
Yeah, go for it, JJ, or I can bring it up.
I thought you went to tee that up. Yeah, we got a question from a watcher, just wondering if you work on a different pitch mix. Obviously, you're headed to Colorado. What is the altitude factor? Does that affect you in any way, kind of how you prepare for your your time in the in the majors, or do you not worry about that until you get to Denver?
That's a question that I've gotten a lot. So I don't really pay attention to all that. I just pitch my game and pitch where my pitches are going to play. Obviously, like you said, the altitude is going to affect it in some way. What way, I don't know. I haven't been up there yet. So that adjustment will come once I get there. But I'm just going to keep the same mindset and keep the same focus and pitch with what I have and throw it down the middle and see if you can hit it. Hitting is already as hard as it is. So if I can make it a little difficult by getting ahead in counts and putting pressure on hitters, I'll have some success.
I kind of wanted to take it back a little bit. I'm from Georgia originally. I've been to Evans, many years ago and all that. But when you were coming up, did this all seem obtainable to you? Or did it was it something where you had to get to college that first year at Georgia Southern to kind of realize that, hey, all this is possible. All this is not just a dream, but kind of something that really you had the potential to do. Did it, it felt like you weren't a late bloomer, but it was something where it felt like you just steadily got better and better and better.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's always been a dream of mine to play professional baseball. When I was in high school, and I would say my freshman year, and I was like, let's just see where this kind of takes me. But once I got to my junior year and I started throwing a little harder, and I kept throwing harder and harder and harder, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can make this into something. So once I got to Georgia Southern, I kind of saw my velo increase a little bit more, and I started to become a lot more efficient in my movement pattern and stuff. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. Like, it's this or nothing else. And that's just kind of been my mindset ever since. And it's paid off a lot for me. I got drafted at my junior year, so I didn't finish college. But like I said, it's just one of those things where I put all my eggs in one basket, and I'm gonna see what I'm made of. And I plan on playing this game until my body falls apart. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, hopefully that's for a very long time
Exactly.
in the future. But that being said, talking a little bit, Georgia Southern, you were kind of part of that first wave, in terms of like the transfer market, we can call it, and all that's become NIL and all that. What was that process like? Were there any other schools in the mix besides Tennessee? And ultimately, why'd you end up there?
Yeah, I mean, that process was very hectic. I remember entering the portal, and I think it was like 9:30 on a Monday. My name went in, and I immediately got phone calls, and I was like, "What's going on?" Because I never got that in high school. I got 2 calls from College of Charleston and Georgia Southern, and those were my only 2 offers out of high school. So I never got the big recruiting craze or the big hype out of high school and things like that. So it was kind of cool to see. But to answer your question, it came down to, for me, it was Arkansas, Tennessee, and there was a third one, but I can't remember. Oh, Texas Tech. It was between those three guys, and I ended up choosing Tennessee just because of the relationship that the coaches have with one another, and I knew that I was going to go in with a bunch of like-minded people trying to make it to professional baseball, and that's kind of what I wanted to be around. And I was around a bunch of first rounders, a bunch of guys that end up in the big leagues one day, a bunch of, in my opinion, Hall of Famers that are going to strive to make really good improvements and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun to play there.
And now, back to the minors for a moment. Chase, best person you've faced, or somebody that stands out. And you can throw multiple names out there too. This question has done well. The prospects we bring on often are the best scouts.
Yeah. Man, that's a hard one. Just because I'm gonna be honest, like I don't really remember.
That's fine.
This season's been a blur for me. But
Yeah.
I would say really everybody at the Futures game when I pitched was a really cool at bat. Spencer Jones obviously is a really good guy to look at. I faced Max Clark. He was fun to pitch against. Who else did I? Justin Crawford with the Phillies.
Yeah.
He was fun to pitch against. Dude, there were so many people that I could keep naming off on and on and on. But I mean, like you said, in AA in the Eastern League, there's a lot of talent in that league. So I mean, it's tough to just nail down one person.
So we got another fan question here, and you talked about it a little bit, but yeah. So how are you a different pitcher now than you were coming out of college?
I wouldn't really say I'm a different pitcher. I would say my mindset has switched a little bit. My sophomore year, obviously, it was really, really good. And then my junior year, I kind of regressed a little bit. But I would say between my junior year and my first year in the minor leagues, it was a switch of mindset. It was a switch of I can't mess this up to I don't care what happens. I'm going to throw this down the middle. I just became less scared. I wasn't scared to make a mistake. I wasn't scared to, oh no, what are the scouts going to say about me? I don't care about that, none of that anymore. Like my junior year, I will say I got a little caught up in the stuff that happened outside of baseball, outside of things that I couldn't control. But I started working with a mental strength coach, and he really helped me switch my mindset to things I can control, which is be one pitch at a time and really focus on executing and being the best pitcher I can be.
And I want to follow up another one here. This is not a fan question. This is one of our staff, Carlos, who covered the draft and all. But I kind of want to ask with that, what are the adjustments? I was going to say the schedule, but you've got a lot of times on 7 days rest so far in pro ball. So has that been a big adjustment, or what's been the biggest adjustment? Besides the mindset of understanding like, hey, I'm going to trust my stuff. How, kind of off the field training, all that. How is it different in pro ball?
I'll say that you play 6 games a week, so it's very tough to stay locked in every single day and go into the field knowing that if I don't do my work, like I'm going to be behind in the tie, whatever. You want to go in and with the mindset of I'm going to get better today. I'm going to get 1% better today, no matter what I do. Whether it's weightlifting, whether it's my throwing program, whether it's getting in that training room and seeing the trainer and getting worked on. I'm going to get 1% better every single day, and if you have that mindset, you're going to have a lot of success. You're going to be able to stay locked in. What I found to be super helpful was to fall in love with the boring stuff. So like fall in love with arm care, fall in love with seeing the trainer, fall in love with doing hot cold tubs or being in the sauna, or fall in love with lifting. You have to be able to look at the small things and be like, I want to do that because I know that that's what's going to take, and that's what's going to take for me to keep progressing in the minor leagues.
Before we let you go, I had a quick question here. Anything that you're working on in the off season, any new pitches, anything you're trying to add to the repertoire or improve within the game? Have you come up with sort of your off season plan thus far?
It's pretty early in the off season still, so I haven't really gotten to all that. I think once we start throwing bullpens, we'll kind of look and see where I am. But for me, it's going to be consistency, number one. Consistency in the shapes of my off speed. I felt like my curveball and my fastball were really consistent, but my slider and changeup this season were kind of iffy at times. Like I kind of noticed I was throwing 3 different sliders at one point. It was like a cutter, a true slider, and like a gyro. So it was like, what shape do I want? What shape works best for me in my arm slot and my repertoire? So like, I would say being super consistent and finding ways to be able to do that. I think in my mechanics is going to be a lot with the upper body, like not being hunched over and just staying tall and staying true and just simplifying everything really is what's going to help me.
Chase, before I let her on, got to ask you also about what's right behind you there. That's from my age of,
Yeah.
I couldn't see the number, but I don't have to ask. I know that's a Nolan Ryan jersey behind you.
Yeah.
So tell us the story about that. Like, you see, a little bit before your time, but it's a great guy to try to emulate.
I wish I could take credit for this, but this is my house. So this is the guy I work out with, Shane McClanahan. He's been a huge help to me. He's been like my mentor. I owe a lot to him. But this is his house. He has a bunch of jerseys around, and it's really cool just kind of be around him and be around what it is to be successful. And I kind of look around at these. He has a Cal Ripken. He has a Clayton Kershaw right there. He has more upstairs, and it's awesome just kind of see the stuff that he has and the memorabilia and things like that. I'm like, dang, I kind of want that, So, for my future house, this is probably what's going to be in it. So.
That's awesome. And that leads to then my last. So how much time are you spending with him? What are you learning from Shane McClanahan? Because that is a guy that this group knows, of course, and obviously the audience that's watching and all that. And I don't know how many people are aware of the off-season connections that certain players have, how that even came about.
Yeah, so we have the same agent, and we're in the same agency. So I actually recently moved down to Tampa, and that's where he lives. So we live together every single day. I'm with him a lot, so him and I have gotten really, really close. I kind of see him as a older brother, kind of / father figure, I guess you could say. Just kind of showing me what it's like to be in the big leagues and showing me what the lifestyle is like, and just kind of helping me along the way and keeping my mind right with what to focus on, what not to focus on. But yeah, him and I have gotten really, really close. Like I said, I owe a lot to him with my mindset, with just helping me out like with the ins and outs of baseball and what professional baseball is like and things like that. I mean, he's a great human being, and I'm really happy to know him.
That's awesome. I mean, that is huge to be able to have that connection in the off season too.
Sure. I mean, like I said, he's helped me so much. It's actually great. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's had a lot of success. Obviously, he's gone through the injuries too, but he's had a lot of success in the bigs so far when he's been on the mound. So that's really cool. Well, Chase, thanks for the time, man. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, this year's for him is going to be a lot of fun seeing him come back. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. He was thriving. This is should be a perennial Cy Young contender in our game for a while. So pretty cool to be able to have him as a workout partner in the off season. Love that. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, you got a good one, Chase. You're an awesome interview. Seriously, mean that. We don't say that to everyone. Thanks for the time. Yeah, you're really well spoken. So keep that up too. That really helps for everyone to get to know you and all that, because fans watch and listen and everything. So thanks for the time. Enjoy the off season, the time in Tampa, and then we'll see you in spring training. Okay.
Appreciate it, guys. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much. Chase Dollander joining us on Baseball America Hot Sheet. That was great. And of course, just a reminder to everyone to make sure that they check out everything going on this week in terms of the NL West. And JJ, if you want to give that a little bit more of a pop. Geoff looks like he's got something to follow with as well, but JJ, start.
I'll tee up Geoff on this, which is
okay.
We're rolling out Rockies this week. So Geoff, you can give it away. Who's our number? You got Chase Dollander, you got Charlie Condon. Who's our number one prospect in the Rockies?
It is Chase Dollander. So he is going to remain the number one prospect in the Rockies system, which is a very talented top 10. It's a talented system. A lot of players, I think once we get into the top 30s, we get into the full handbook season. Some new names for readers out there, for fantasy players that are going to be looking for whoever they can beat on the waiver wire to whoever the hot name is coming over from the DSL. But really talented system, but Dollander ends up reigning supreme. I think some of the concerns regarding Charlie Condon's hitting post-drafts, some of the workouts, where he ends up defensively. There was some talk. There was a hand injury he was dealing with as well. But I just think when you look at the dominance of what Dollander did this season, and we can't forget, this was a guy that, a couple of years ago was considered the number one pitching prospect heading into that draft. And then, of course, Paul Skeens became what we know now as Paul Skeens and surpassed him, but was, a very highly touted college pitching prospect in his own right. And I think he's followed through on that. He took a big step forward as a pro, and just, chatted with him a little bit about, what he's doing this offseason. And I have, confidence that he'll be able to take that next step forward. Of course, the issue is, he does have to pitch in Colorado, which is probably the worst place you can pitch besides the moon.
Hey, he said, just don't think about it. Just be
exactly.
me. But
I like that.
Easier said than done. Yeah, it's good mentality. You got to think that way.
It's going to be him.
Exactly. You got to think that way when you're young and you're a prospect. Okay, so lastly, we've got the 40-man roster non-tender deadline tomorrow. So for people to know, that plays into the Rule 5 draft. JJ's looking at his chops. This is fun. This is in-depth, granular roster movement kind of activity. But, I mean, that name alone or that face alone should stand out, JJ, to tell everyone how valuable this time period could be to find a diamond in the rough.
Exactly. So the non-tender deadline also is the protection deadline for the Rule 5 draft. December 11th, we will have the Rule 5 draft, a day that I kind of enjoy. Geoff enjoys a lot every year. But this is what we're talking about. This is a chance. There are not many chances during the season, but this is a chance for teams to essentially get free talent. So it's designed to kind of, baseball is socialist in a way. Can't fit a guy on the 40-man roster, 2020 high school and international signings, and 2021 college draftees. Those are the guys who are first-year eligibles this year. You've got a guy from the 2021 college draft, 2020 high school draft, who's not added to the 40-man roster, is freely available for all 29 other teams to take them, spend $100,000, add them to the 40-man, and keep them in the big leagues all next year. A lot of times those guys don't work out, but every now and then they do. Anthony Santander, Josh Hamilton, Joaquin Soria, Johan Santana, who, there are guys who've really ended up popping. We have a 21st century All Rule 5 team. Mitch Spence, by the way, who really was good for the A's last year. That was to get a starting pitcher who steps into your rotation. We're going to see who gets protected tomorrow. We'll analyze it all at baseballamerica.com. And we will then start rolling out the names who were left off. Our Rule 5 previews will start tomorrow as well at baseballamerica.com.
Hey, there's good names with good careers on that list. And then there's also still some fresh names. Tommy Kahnle was a big factor in the playoffs for the Yankees. Trevor Steffen's a really good reliever who was out for this season with Cleveland, but should be back to one of the best bullpens in baseball. And that's a lot of good pitchers on that list. And obviously we talked about some of the historically, really strong picks on the position player side. I always remember Dan Ugla watching, for a period of life, a lot of Marlins games because I was in South Florida for a point of life, and Ugla would come up. You'd always hear it. Yeah, you'd be like, "Hey, here's 40 homer pop, Rule 5," and I was like, "What the heck's that?" And then you learn about it, so it was cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, look out for all of that. And then lastly, again, just a reminder to everyone to make sure you check out the NL West top 10s rolling out this week. Tomorrow's Rockies, Wednesday Dodgers, Thursday Diamondbacks, and lastly, a question here. That's a great way to finish. Good question, Jimmy. Any thoughts on tonight's Rookies of the Year? JJ, and then Geoff can follow, and then we'll say goodbye.
I did not have a Rookie of the Year vote this year, so I can talk about this. I'm not embargoed on this. To me, it's Skeens. Jackson Merrill, great season. Jackson Chourio, great season. But Paul Skeens, I just think that the degree of difficulty was even a little bit higher. Jackson Merrill was one of the better position players in the National League this year, which is an incredible accomplishment, especially for a guy who's moving from shortstop to center field. Paul Skeens is going to be, he's getting Cy Young votes. Paul Skeens was absolutely slam dunk one of the best starting pitchers in the National League this year. I think that's just a higher degree of difficulty to do what he did. So to me, it's Skeens, but I also understand Merrill had an incredible year as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the most interesting conversation is obviously on the NL side. I think the odds on favorite at this point, just looking at some of the odds that are out there, it's Skeens over Merrill, though, it was a historical NL rookie class. On the AL side, it looks like the odds on favorite is Louis Heel, followed by Colton Cowser, and then a Yankee teammate of Heel's in Austin Wells. I think that one is a little bit more up for grabs. I don't know how the votes will end up being split, but not as impactful, but probably a little bit closer group that, it's anybody's guess on the AL side. But I think I'd probably
that's a wide open one to me.
Yeah,
like you
I
can make
agree.
the case for any of those three, and I'd say that partly because I don't think any of them have a slam dunk case.
No.
You can poke holes at all of them, and you can also make the argument for all three of the finalists.
Exactly.
The finalist, the
Yes.
finalist. It's not really. It's the final three that we know one of the three will win it.
Yeah, for some unaware. It's not like we get to 3, then we revote or something like that. They just do the vote, they unveil it. It's just a more flashy, TV media friendly way to do it. So we'll find out who wins AL, NL, and we could talk about it if there's any controversy next time around on Hot Sheet. If you're listening pod-wise, please leave a rating and review. Be nice. Holiday season soon. That'd be cool. And then subscribe to Baseball America. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're checking out those top 10s. NL East and NL Central have already been accomplished. We'll get to the American League side very soon on Hot Sheet, and we'll see you next week.